Good afternoon. This is Jordan Wright from the Angry Astronaut, and I am here with Mike Provenzano from Astrobotic, and we will be talking about the Peregrine lander and what happens, the magic that happens on the surface of the moon afterwards. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you, Jordan, for having us.
So, Mike, let's go ahead and just do a quick overview question here. Most of my viewers are pretty familiar with a lot of the things that I discuss, but Astrobotic and Peregrine and all that is something they're not as familiar with. So can you give us, I've told them a little bit about him being a lunar taxi, that sort of thing, but can you kind of define what that might mean to a customer?
Definitely. Yeah, so I would say our company really prides ourselves on transportation services that we provide. We're a lunar logistics provider. So very similar to, you compare yourself to like DHL, delivering goods from one location to another. We deliver goods from the Earth to the moon. And we have a few ways that we can do that. One is through our lunar landers, Peregrine, which is the one that's scheduled to fly in Q4 of 2022. And then we also have our Griffin lander, which is going to be flying in 2023 with the Viper rover, NASA's Viper rover. We also then have our rover services that are a piece of those transportation services. So we have a Moon Ranger rover that my team is developing, and that's going to be flying in Q4 2023 on a different commercial lander provider's lander. And then we're also working on a number of other rovers, exciting rover opportunities, power services, and we have a number of space robotics technologies as well, things like autonomous navigation, GPS-denied navigation, autonomous landing solutions, very interesting simulation tools that we use to prepare for our missions, plan our missions. So there's a number of different technologies that we're developing here.
Moon Ranger, that sounds cool. That's going to be, I guess, my next question here. I haven't heard about that particular rover. Everybody's heard about Viper. Yes, we're going to find ice with Viper, which is very exciting, of course, but haven't heard about Moon Ranger. Can you tell me a little bit about what its mission is?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually in partnership with Carnegie Mellon University on this one. So this one is the first of its kind in terms of the autonomy that it's going to be providing. It's going to drop down from the lander at the South Pole, Haworth site, and then it's going to be driving out about a kilometer or more by itself with no human-in-the-loop commands and driving back. And we actually integrated with the neutron spectrometer system from Ames. So it's going to be looking for water ice as well. And the whole plan was actually that this was going to go in 2022. It was going to be before Viper. But now, as time would have it, we're actually almost directly overlap with that mission. So there's going to be 2 water hunting rovers on the moon at the same time at the South Pole looking for ice. It'll be a really exciting mission.
Yeah, and incredibly important to Artemis. I mean, obviously the overall plan behind Artemis is to go to the moon to stay. Water ice, of course, being vital for both, fuel and also just oxygen survival, basic, survival needs, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, how does this make you feel to be such an important part of our return to the moon? Wow.
I mean, it's an amazing feeling, right? It's personally, as somebody, my dream is to make humans a multiplanetary species as well. Many in the community share that same dream. I think that anything we can do that contributes to that goal, we may not find it, we may not get there in our life, we may not find life in the universe during our lifetime, but if we can be a part of the stepping stone that helps people get there, I think that's an unbelievable feeling. And for us to be potentially the first rover that would ever discover water ice on the moon at the ground truth level, I mean, there's just not quite any feeling like that. So it's we're all really happy, really proud to be here working on a mission like that.
So to backtrack just a little bit, tell me a little bit about Cube Rover and what it took to put that together, what its mission is. What's the deal with Cube Rover?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So Cube Rover is it's our smaller rover product line. So we work on a few different size rovers here at Astrobotic. We have small, medium, and large size rovers. Cube Rover really fills up. It's our flagship product line for the smaller rover segment. And we created it because it's the lightest weight planetary rover to ever fly. And when we do that, ultimately, as you know very well, mass means savings. Mass is king in space. So we try to keep costs down as low as possible, and we try to provide just the minimal amount of mobility needed to bring customer payloads to different locations. So whether it's a science instrument or whether it's a technology demonstration, you don't need a 300 kilogram rover to bring your instrument to a different location. You could do it with a 4.5 kilogram rover. So we try to provide a platform that users can take advantage of, whether it's for power services, whether it's for data services to relay information back to the lander and home, or whether it's just to drive them from one location to another and take images or take science data at those sites. That's why we created that platform. And we're really excited by the progress that we've made so far. We've been funded under a lot of different NASA contracts that we're really appreciative of all the support to date. And we're actually now finishing up our flight qualification test campaign for that. So we put it through thermal vacuum chambers, we put it through shock and vibe tests preparing for the launch. We've done electromagnetic interference tests to make sure it doesn't interfere with the lander spacecraft. We're going through radiation tests now, lots of dust and mobility tests that we've done in our own lunar regolith lab here. We have 47,000 pounds of lunar regolith simulant, and it's pretty great. It's a giant sand bed, but we just get to play in every single day, and we have a lot of fun in it.
Wow. So what you're talking about, it brings to mind something that just from my childhood, before your time, I think Carl Sagan in Cosmos, the original one, and he was talking about the idea of a rover on Mars. In those days, that's all we could do is just dream of stuff like that. And he was talking about being as smart as a grasshopper or as intelligent as a bacterium, that sort of thing. But on Mars, we're going to need something that can kind of think for itself, given the 15 minutes or 30 minutes round trip travel time of transmissions. Obviously, you don't have as much of an issue with that with the moon, but still, you've talked a little bit about rovers that can think for themselves. Can you give me some examples of what these things are capable of and what you want them to be capable of?
Yeah, Mars is a much harder challenge than the moon in terms of autonomy because of the latency, as you're mentioning. So that's a solution that we're providing kind of on a sliding scale for different platforms that we develop. So Moon Ranger is fully autonomous. Cube Rover is teleoperated, and really varying amounts of interest depending on those platforms. Some customers want to drive it, they want to joystick it, and because what cool experience is that? You get to drive a rover on the moon. But sometimes you need to have the autonomy in cases where you don't have access to comms. Like, for example, right now, if we were to fly to the far side of the moon, there is no constellation that we can take advantage of to get our signal back to Earth. So we need to have the ability to drive off, turn our power on, or bunker down during the lunar night and make sure that we can stay warm. So there's a ton of capabilities that we need to, one, identify obstacles, avoid obstacles, which we can do through a variety of sensors, whether it's our cameras or whether it's using things like lasers, line striping to map out and receive maybe LiDAR data back as we're driving. But there's also a lot of functions that those tie into in terms of how do we overlay that with some of the prior generated maps that we have to determine our local position on those maps? How do we then determine based on the time of day or the temperature that we're getting that we need to do certain thermal operations, whether or not we keep our solar panel open, whether we close or not? So there's a vast amount of functions that you can have be autonomous. It really just depends on the mission profile. So Mars is not something that we currently have experience with at the moment. We definitely have great ambitions to go there in the future, but we're really focused on the moon right now in the lunar environment.
Well, the biggest challenge, obviously, for the moon, well, I'm sure there's many challenges, but the biggest one that occurs to me, of course, is the lunar night, and you've mentioned that a bit. Well, what sort of tactics are you using to protect against that? I mean, China recently did a sample return to where they were racing against time to get the sample and get back before nighttime hit. We've never had an Apollo mission that tried to make it through the lunar night. So what are you doing for your lander to survive, and do you foresee that maybe being useful for our astronauts to survive?
Yeah, I think there's three possibilities, three paths that we've gone down to look at ways that our rovers can survive. I can certainly talk more about the rovers probably than the landers. In our case, we've looked at ways that, well, one, can the system get down to that temperature, negative 200 degrees Celsius, and then wake back up again when it becomes lunar day? That's one possibility. That's one of the most challenging of them all. Another possibility is you could bring enough batteries with you that you can just put a ton of energy in them and then deplete the batteries to power your heaters and then survive through the night that way. And there's various means you can distribute the power, whether it's through some of the wireless chargers that we're developing right now. You can affix them at the bottom of our lander, or maybe through a vertical solar array. Some of the big technologies are being developed right now, large solar arrays for power grids that could provide power to these assets. So you could just drive up next to them and then either plug in or wirelessly charge and keep your batteries enough power to keep your heaters alive. That's the second option. And then the third, more traditional option is you could do radioisotopic heater unit to stay warm, which is, they've done that in Lunokhod missions. They've done that on some of the JPL missions to Mars, whether it's plutonium-based or polonium-based kind of methods to stay warm. We're looking at those too. There are some more modern nuclear sources that we can take a look at that are much smaller scale, might be able to fit in small rovers. So I guess between any of those three techniques, you have your choice.
Wow, that's a big challenge, no doubt, to try to survive those kinds of conditions. That is definitely a huge thing. Now, another advantage, and I don't know how well or how much you can speak to this, is the fact that we're trying to scout out the lunar surface for the benefit of Artemis. Obviously, SLS is a very expensive rocket, as I've commented a number of times on my channel. That's the most expensive aspect of Artemis, is that side of it. Now, on your side of things, it seems to me that getting all these additional customers on board with you is helping to reduce the bottom line. I mean, is that kind of part of your overall business strategy? Is that something that we can discuss?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think we are at an interesting paradigm shift for the lunar economy where we need commercial business to close our manifest. And that's kind of that's how businesses are approaching this now. We very much rely on our customers. We have 24 payloads on board our first mission, Peregrine, and NASA is one of the customers that is flying on that mission with us. Among, actually, I believe it's at least 6 countries, or maybe more. I don't want to quote that incorrectly, but we have a number of different countries flying with us. It's really exciting to be at a time where we could reach out to international groups around the world and fly their payloads to the moon and be that lunar logistics service. And we're really hopeful. We're seeing a lot of interest as we continue to grow, and people are reaching out to us to continue to fill our next couple of manifests. And we're seeing a lot of promise as well for upcoming NASA missions that we're hoping to support and be one of the main providers for that.
Wonderful. Last question. This is going to be the first launch of Vulcan Centaur, obviously taking this thing, the first launch of a brand new rocket, brand new probe, brand new everything. How can you describe the tension? I mean, how do you think you're going to feel at the moment as they're counting down at the Cape? Yeah,
it's also an amazing feeling. I would say that everybody here is really excited. We're also all working really hard. Days like yesterday when we unveil Peregrine are days that we get a little bit closer to that milestone and we all kind of see it happening, our dream kind of happening in front of us. I think certainly there's the first time we're flying Peregrine, the first time we're flying ULA's Vulcan rocket, but ULA has an amazing track record, which we're really confident in. And based on everything I see from our team here working hard, hours on end, I feel really confident about our mission too. So I'd say we have a healthy amount of concern, but much more excitement.
Mike, I deeply appreciate the time that you gave me today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And hello again. I am now joined by Olivia Chapla, who is Communications Director at Astrobotic. So, I get an opportunity to speak with 2 representatives from this fantastic company. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us and for visiting Astrobotic for the great Peregrine unveiling. It's so cool to see the hardware finally just right in front of us. You can feel the buzz in the air from the staff for sure.
So can you tell me a little bit about what's coming in the future from Astrobotic? We've heard a little bit about, the work with the, looking for ice on the moon, that sort of thing. How many missions do you have lined up? Are you able to speak to that? And what sort of missions are we looking at?
I am definitely, as the communications director, of course, I can only say what's been published publicly and what we've all agreed to publish to this point.
Sure.
So our missions are Peregrine Mission 1 launching later this year, Q4 2022. And we also have our Griffin Mission 1 happening, carrying the Viper rover, as you know, water hunting rover.
Right.
And we have other pieces manifested on different missions. That's the beauty of the commercial space industry. We also have the Moon Ranger mission that's launching as well in 2022.
So those 3 is what we can definitely confirm at the moment. And you anticipate more in the future? Is that your ambition?
We definitely are anticipating more missions. The NASA CLIPS program, I believe the tempo has inspired us to have 2 missions a year. And we hope that we get to that point, and we are planning and preparing to get to that point. We have 2 clean rooms. You saw one of them yesterday, but we have another one tucked away in the back of our building for a more private look and a private assembly. But we're ready. We're waiting. We're hungry for it. And the beauty of commercial companies, we can accept payloads and we can accept sponsorships from different entities. So, for example, we have DHL Moonbox is one of our payloads on Peregrine. DHL is the international shipping company, right? And it's very fitting because they ship things all around the Earth, and now they're paying to ship something to the moon, right? So we have Moonbox, and inside of this Moonbox are these little moon capsules. They're 3D printed moon capsules, and for a few $100s, anyone around the world can purchase a moon capsule. And they can put, within reason, of course, whatever they want inside. And some of the things that people have come up with to send are just, they're very special. There was a user on Reddit. His name is Adam, and he commented and said, "I have an SD card, a micro SD card aboard Astrobotic's Peregrine lander. Who wants to join me?" And 33,000 people commented. So that poor man had to sift through those 33,000 comments and upload them to a micro SD card, and he did. I think he asked for help from moderators, but he did that, and it's amazing because those 33,000 people are watching and waiting and excited, and they're aboard with us in a huge way, and they're gonna be watching along with us for launch and landing, and I hope everybody here does too.
That's an amazing thought indeed. So can you give me an example of the companies, aside from DHL, that are riding along with you? Do you have any secured for the Viper mission yet that you can talk about also?
Peregrine has 24 payloads, and that's incredible. I mean, it's just incredible that we have so many going to the moon all at once, when in the past, you know what the cadence was for going to the moon. You know the cadence of scientific instruments that actually got to get there. So the fact that there's one bus essentially carrying all 24 is pretty incredible. But some of them aboard that I think are pretty exciting. All of them are exciting, but we have two different space agencies coming along with us. We have DLR, the German space agency. We have AEM, the Mexican space agency. And if you Google them, I'm sure you'll find it immediately that DLR is sending a radiation sensor to re-record what the human body may experience on the way to the moon. And AEM has a suite of a little rover swarm that they're catapulting to the surface of the moon. And they're going to test the technology to try to have those little micro rovers communicate with each other. We also have, of course, 11 NASA payloads, and if you go to our manifest or you go to nasa.com, you can see every single one of them and get more information. And some of them have been aboard and will be aboard future missions. And we've said this before, Astrobotic's tagline is making space accessible to the world. But what that means is programs like Moonbox. What that means is we have so many people joining us on this mission who are angry, who are happy, who are engineers and artists and writers, and it's just so exciting to see all of it come together to make space truly within reach for everybody. Our team has worked closely with NASA to integrate them with our lander and make sure that they all do their mission and are in their silos to we call it do no harm, to not interfere with any other payloads. So that's the challenge of integrating 24 payloads on one lunar lander, but it's also the joy, right? You get to work with all these incredible teams. The other part of this is some of the other payloads that we have are, we have plaques from people, so there's some names aboard. There's Civil Air Patrol is one company that they put all of these cadet names on and had it micro etched on a piece that could survive the surface and survive launch and landing. And it's so neat because those cadets are going to look up and see, like, my name's up there.
Yeah.
It's out in space. Yeah.
So there's a lot of scientific work, but also just very interesting, very human things that are happening with this mission as well. I mean, it really seems to make it pretty unique. And also, what's really neat is the fact that less than half of your payloads are from NASA. So you have, the majority of them are from paying customers from other sources. I mean, do you think is that kind of part of your business model? We're going to make, these missions affordable because, other companies, other countries will help to supplement NASA's expenses?
Yeah, so NASA's our customer, so they purchase space aboard our lander, and that's how the commercial model works, right? So anyone else can purchase space aboard it and test out their scientific instruments, test out their experiments, things like that. So that's incredible, and we foresee that continuing, and there's a demand for it, and that's why there's so many competitors in the lunar lander landscape.
Wow. This is very neat stuff, indeed. So, again, I've kind of already asked this question. Can you speak to your decision to go with Vulcan Centaur, ULA, that sort of thing? I mean, obviously, there's probably fierce competition for that, especially the first mission to go to the moon, that sort of thing. Can you speak at all to what made ULA your choice?
Unfortunately, I wasn't part of the selection process with it. That would have been really cool and interesting. But ULA does have that flight heritage. They do have, so I saw a banner when I visited last. It was even probably outdated, but it said 100 successful launches, and it had a photo of each one, and that was very cool to see. But they do have that flight heritage, and the Vulcan Centaur is its first launch, as we all know, but they have so much history that we have confidence in them and their abilities. Those
space pods you just talked about, are those things that can be still bought for, not necessarily for this mission, but for a future mission? So, somebody, like if I want to send my logo to the moon, for example, or something like that, something self-serving like that, I could do that?
You could, yes, absolutely. We have moon boxes still available for future missions. We've not announced which mission Moonbox is manifested for next, but keep an eye out, right?
That's exciting. Let me tell you, it is frustrating to me, to be honest, to hear so many exciting things about what you're doing, to hear about the integral and vital work that Astrobotic is going to be doing, Peregrine, etc., on the surface of the moon, and yet there's just no publicity. There's no word about it. The news is really not talking at all about this. If they're even talking about going back to the moon at all, what can we as journalists do to put you more, in the limelight and emphasize the importance of what you're doing? Because we're not going back to the moon without this information. So, is there anything we can do to help?
That's nice of you to ask. First of all, nice of you to realize and recognize. So what's interesting about Astrobotic as a Pittsburgh company, the Pittsburgh legacy has a deep history in the steel industry, as we all know. It was a very hardworking, blue-collar kind of area for a really long time. And what's interesting about Astrobotic is Astrobotic kind of just does the work. We are more behind the scenes. We are just putting our heads down. We're doing the work. Of course, as the marketing person, I love to shout us from the rooftops. But what we're really going to do is prove ourselves with our innovations and with the incredibly smart people here. So how you can help us, I think just interacting, talking about us, being excited about it, tuning in for launch and landing. I'm not worried about the press so much in that we're going to be this huge superstar right now, right? But we are going to, you're going to hear our name for our launch and landing for sure. And I think that you're going to find that we're going to be in some more stories coming up lately, too.
Well, I am looking forward to hearing all about that. I deeply appreciate you spending time with me. Thank you very much. Is there anything you would like to add? Anything that you would like the world to know about this mission or about Astrobotic that we haven't talked about?
I can't get over the people that work here. Today we have 168 or 69 employees. And that grew from 18 just 3 years ago. And like Sharad Bhaskaran is our mission director for Peregrine 1. He's been here for so long, and he knows everything about the mission in and out. And we have so many people from different entities that came from a space background, but we also have engineers that have not come from a space background, and their perspectives get to really get together and challenge each other and make it even better of a lunar lander, even better rover. And we have astronomers here, we have writers, we have HR people, we have space lawyers. We have so many other entities and big brains behind our organization that don't get as much as the limelight as, say, a Peregrine lunar lander being unveiled. But we're here and we're doing the work, and I can't wait for you all to see it.
Well, that puts a very personal touch on the whole thing, and I wish you guys all the success in the world as a supporter of innovative private space flight. It is a rare privilege to be able to interview people like yourself and Mike. So thank you so much for your time today, and until every other space flight company embraces this kind of innovative thought when it comes to us returning to the moon, I urge all of you to stay angry about space.